Hello, everyone. I am here with your 90-day growth challenge update. If you will remember, your growth challenge consists of these things. I got an email from someone this week talking about the tithe part of the 90-day growth challenge, and she wrote that she was trying to figure out whether to give 5% or 10% on her paycheck. They had always been tithing on her husband's paycheck, and she had a new job, so they just were trying to figure out what to give out of that. And so she sat down and figured out, okay, 5%, 10%. And as she was thinking about this, she said it occurred to her, do I want God to bless me on 5% or 10%? And then the thought followed, well, God has already been blessing me, so what can I do, or what should I do? And she said, well, I just decided I'm going to give 10% because I can. And so she gave 10% of her paycheck, and she just said it felt right because that's the challenge that God gave for his people. So I just thought I would share that. That was encouraging to me, that you give back, you give the first fruits, not because you want necessarily God to give you more or to bless you with more, although he tends to do that. That's kind of a promise and an expectation he sets, but the biggest part of it is an act of worship that we give because we can, just because we are compelled to out of his good. It's a response, not a first act. We give out of response, not out of initiative when it comes to God. So we'll get to the readings for the week. Matthew 14. I thought it was a cool series of stories about Jesus' ministry. He talks about Matthew talks about John the Baptist is beheaded, and you may know that John was Jesus's cousin, a forerunner, someone he was very close to. And when Jesus heard that his cousin John had been beheaded, he escaped off by himself, but the crowds found him. And so he's in pain because he's lost his cousin, a close friend, ministry partner. But in the midst of that pain, he performs one of the greatest miracles ever, the feeding of the 5,000, and then he wants to get off by himself again, and then he notices his disciples are, they're in a storm, so they're in trouble. So he comes walking on the water to his disciples in their trouble. So it's just kind of a cool chapter about how great things can happen in the midst of our pain, and God tends to work. And maybe C.S. Lewis called pain God's megaphone to get the attention of people who sometimes wouldn't get it. And that's not necessarily obviously what's going on in Jesus' life, but great things can happen in the midst of our pain, as Jesus exemplifies in Matthew 14. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday readings are from Acts 13 and 14. That talks about some really cool stories from the ministry of Saul, where he really begins to catch his stride. Friday is a reading from Psalm 46. The last part of that chapter I thought was a great reminder for this week, for the election upcoming, where the psalmist writes, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be honored by every nation. I will be honored throughout the world." And that's a promise that God gives us throughout Scripture, and it doesn't matter what happens in any election, with any country, about anything. God invites his people to be still and know that he is still in control. He is still God, will always be God, and ultimately will be honored by every nation throughout all the world. That's his promise, and I'm glad he promised it, because I need to be reminded of that this week and always. So, blessings on your 90-day challenge. Email me with response, questions, stories, bwilson@newlifegillette.com. Appreciate you guys. See ya.